Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension, the world, and those of you who are locked on to Constructive Talk. Thank you very much for being a part. Thank you very much for being with me this evening. All right, so this evening is going to be interesting in the sense of there's so much happening as always in Trinidad and Tobago. There's so much happening, so much, so that sometimes you just wonder. As well, boy, I keeping up or I ain't keeping up. Honestly, Sometimes I just wonder if I'm keeping up or if I'm not keeping up with all that is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. Honestly. So let me say good evening to those of you joining me on Facebook and on YouTube. All right, remember you can share the link, share the live, tell somebody, and make sure when you come on to the page, make sure and click that like button, and number 2, make sure and subscribe. If you are not somebody who has subscribed to Constructive Talk, then this is a good time for you to do so. Yep, good time for you to subscribe to Constructive Talk. So it is Tuesday. Last night we broke the news where Fali would have said January the 12th is election. So again, so much is happening. Again, I want to thank all of you for being with me. Grace and peace unto all of you. Thank God for another time on the earth where we can live. Some people just living. Yeah, some people just living. So again, I want to say thank you for being a part of Constructive Talk this evening with me, Pastor Google, as we look into the issues of Trinidad and Tobago and by extension the world. Wow. What is going on? What is happening? So much is happening. So much is going on. And I am just really concerned. I'm so concerned about what is happening, and sometimes you just have to, how to put it, boy. Sometimes you just have to watch all that is happening, watch, and somehow just hope that things get better. So we're seeing where the public servants got the 10%. They're getting partial back pay. We're also seeing where what again is happening. So we're seeing where Sanyo Gong laws are being debated in the Senate, and it really just needs a simple majority to pass. I'm seeing also where the opposition is putting out information. I'm going to play for you in a short. All right, I'm going to play that for you. Where the opposition is putting out information for you to understand why they took the position that they took, where stand your ground is concerned. And also, I'm hearing that the opposition is having a political meeting on Thursday in Tunapuna. All right, so the opposition is having a political meeting on Thursday in Tunapuna. So that's something that some of you who live in Tunapuna, those of you who live in Tunapuna, those of you who live in Tunapuna, who live in Puna, may be very well interested in being a part of, may be interested in going and hearing what the opposition has to say about issues and things that are happening in Trinidad and Tobago. All right, cool. So yeah, so much is happening, as I continue to say. Not enough time to talk about it, and not even enough time to, how to put it, not even enough time to be aware, in the sense of, when you now finish deal with one matter, there are other matters that are just showing its face. You know that, right? So as you finish, deal with one. Yesterday we deal with the lies in the parliament. Yesterday we deal with we remember and we rehash and we thought about the statements being made by the chairman of HDC when he made statements about and he made a statement saying that, you know, it's like tick on a sick cow. Who are you talking about? The employees of HTC. That's who you're talking about. You know what I mean? So what I want to do for you, what I would like to do for you this evening is play for you the opposition position on Stand Your Ground. I want to play that so that you will hear it, you will understand the opposition position on Stand Your Ground laws. Then after that, we're going to get into some of the issues in the news, some of the things that you may not be aware of, and then we'll open the lines for you to tell me what are your thoughts. I would like to hear from Tobagonians, if it's possible this evening, to hear from from people from Tobago on their thoughts about what's going on. We saw somebody cross the floor from the PNM over to the TPP. Interesting. Real interesting times. So I'm gonna play getting ready to play for you the information from the opposition concerning Stand Your Ground. And meanwhile I'm urging you, asking you, so those of you who are joining me now on Facebook, YouTube, I'm urging you, I'm begging you to share the live. Alright? Share the live. Share the YouTube link. It's very easy to share the YouTube link to your friends and family and persons who you think should be listening, alright, to Constructive Talk this evening. Somebody said, take on a cow. Yeah, that's how you refer to people who work in HDC as ticks on a cow. You know, Ansel Rouge did not even willing to defend the workers in HDC against the statement that a chairman, you know, call workers tick. Wow. It's interesting. So I think it's time for us to go to the clip with the PNM. All right, and please, those of you who are on the live, share it. All right, share it. And let people know that we are live on Constructive Talk. You know, there's so much happening. And today I saw something on somebody sent me a message earlier on today about somebody would have screen record my conversation with you guys and try to put it across a certain way. But you know, I don't really and I have a position that I've taken for a while now, since even when I was on radio. I don't really respond to persons who have the agenda to try to destroy me. You know, when you try to destroy somebody who have a good heart, most of the times you end up destroying yourself, you know. Honestly. Most of the times you end up destroying yourself. You know, so as they say, go long, bam bam, you go see him. Go long, bam, you go see him. You know what I mean? So, I'm just waiting for the clip to upload. and to really be able to show it to you guys. So that's what's happening. So what has been happening in your neck of the woods? What has been happening in your neck of the woods? Trinidad and Tobago. What has been happening? I hope that some of you are watching what is going on in the world. I'm seeing where they're trying to impeach a president. I don't know how lucky they're gonna be with that. I really don't know how lucky they're gonna be where that is concerned. You know? But I really do hope that the Americans and they know what they're doing. You know what I mean? I really do hope so. Because boy oh boy, the world is watching and the world is wondering what is going on. What is going on? So I am really trying to, okay, so it's now downloading. So bear with me. Those of you who are on the live, bear with me. Alright, so trying to get this clip up. Right, I get it up. So let me put up this clip for you. Right? Let me put up this clip for you so that you can see it and you can make your own judgment on the opposition position on stand your ground. All right? So you can do that. So in the meanwhile, while you all look at this, you know, I'll make sure and get my other stuff ready for you guys. So yeah, take a look at this. All right? This is the opposition position on stand your ground. Okay? So take a listen to this.
Last week, Wednesday, the UNC government passed in Parliament the Home Invasion, Self-Defense and Defense of Property Bill 2025. And the opposition voted against it, and you need to know why. So let's be clear. The opposition does not oppose the ability for anyone, homeowner or occupant, to defend themselves and their families inside of their home. The issue is this, though. That already exists. Castle doctrine, which is part of our common law, allows for that. The problem we have with this bill is that it goes beyond that. The problem with this bill is that it gives a person the ability to utilize lethal force, deadly force, outside of their home. And here's how that happens. The bill introduces a few terms that I think is really important for us to understand. The first term is a dwelling house. In clause 3, which lays out the definitions in the interpretation clause for words and terms used in the legislation, including in a dwelling house, is something called an associated place. So let me explain what an associated place is. In this act, an associated place means, and there are two subclauses, A and B, and I'll explain what B says. B says any place where a dwelling house is one or two or more dwelling houses in one building or group of buildings that occupants of the dwelling house use in common with each other. What does that mean? That means that gated communities, townhouse developments, apartment complexes, and everything that is encompassed in that community becomes an associated place, and therefore anyone who lives or occupies a house, apartment, townhouse in that community can stand your ground in any of those associated places. There are also two other changes in this law that dramatically change the impact of the law. One of them is the term honestly believe, and the other one is a change in the measurement by which force will be measured. So the legislation changes the way that the person who has been called upon to exercise force in standing their ground or defending themselves or defending their property, changing the way that force and the use of that force is measured. Before, force was required to be proportionate, but now force is required to be not grossly disproportionate. Now, for the non-lawyers, and most of us are, the simple explanation of that is that the way that it will be measured by a court is dramatically lowered. So getting back to the term that we talked about just now, honestly believes. Nowhere in the legislation is there a definition or an interpretation for what honestly believes means. And the issue with that is honestly believes is entirely subjective. Two people can be in the exact same scenario, in the exact same moment, and have a completely different honest belief as to what that situation is and how they should react. Because your honest belief is based on your life experiences, whatever trauma that you may have, your biases, yes, your prejudices, and everything that has led up to you being you in that moment. So the issue here is that just wide range of things that could cause anyone to honestly believe that they are in danger in any given moment needs to be defined. And then when you lower the measurement by which the force is going to be used, you now have a real problem, because when you mix firearms with feelings, the result of this legislation is deadly. And now we have to talk about the fact that this legislation doesn't exist by itself. It's not an island. This legislation has to be taken into consideration with two really important policy positions that the UNC government has already stated they will be driving in this country. The first one is widening access to firearms. And the second one is creating a scenario, or creating a society where we will have more gated communities. In fact, the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government is on record as saying that her gated community policy is directly linked to stand your ground legislation. Last week, Wednesday, the UNC government passed in Parliament the Home Invasion, Self-Defense and Defense of Property Bill 2025. And the opposition voted against it, and you need to know why. So let's be clear. The opposition does not oppose the ability for anyone, homeowner or occupant, to defend themselves and their families inside of their home. The issue is this, though. That already exists. Castle doctrine, which is part of our common law, allows for that. The problem we have with this bill is that it goes beyond that. The problem with this bill is that it gives a person the ability to utilize lethal force, deadly force, outside of their home. And here's how that happens. The bill introduces a few terms that I think is really important for us to understand. The first term is a dwelling house. In clause 3, which lays out the definitions in the interpretation clause for words and terms used in the legislation, including in a dwelling house, is something called an associated place. So let me explain what an associated place is. In this act, an associated place means, and there are two subclauses, A and B, and I'll explain what B says. B says any place where a dwelling house is one or two or more dwelling houses in one building or group of buildings that occupants of the dwelling house use in common with each other. What does that mean? That means that gated communities townhouse developments, apartment complexes, and everything that is encompassed in that community becomes an associated place, and therefore anyone who lives or occupies a house, apartment, townhouse in that community can stand your ground in any of those associated places. There are also two other changes in this law that dramatically change the impact of the law. One of them is the term honestly believe, and the other one is a change in the measurement by which force will be measured. So the legislation changes the way that the person who has been called upon to exercise force in standing their ground or defending themselves or defending their property, changing the way that force and the use of that force is measured. Before, force was required to be proportionate, but now force is required to be not grossly disproportionate. Now, for the non-lawyers, and most of us are, the simple explanation of that is that the way that it will be measured by a court is dramatically lowered. So getting back to the term that we talked about just now, honestly believes. Nowhere in the legislation is there a definition or an interpretation for what honestly believes means. And the issue with that is honestly believes is entirely subjective. Two people can be in the exact same scenario, in the exact same moment, and have a completely different honest belief as to what that situation is and how they should react. Because your honest belief is based on your life experiences, whatever trauma that you may have, your biases, yes, your prejudices, and everything that has led up to you being you in that moment. So the issue here is that just wide range of things that could cause anyone to honestly believe that they are in danger in any given moment needs to be defined. And then when you lower the measurement by which the force is going to be used, you now have a real problem, because when you mix firearms with feelings, the result of this legislation is deadly. And now we have to talk about the fact that this legislation doesn't exist by itself. It's not an island. This legislation has to be taken into consideration with two really important policy positions that the UNC government has already stated they will be driving in this country. The first one is widening access to firearms. And the second one is creating a scenario, or creating a society where we will have more gated communities. In fact, the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government is on record as saying that her gated community policy is directly linked to stand your ground legislation.
All right. So you heard, it's a part. It's being done in parts. So that's part one, and I believe that when I get part two, when I get part two, you will be able to hear part two. So it's a series of explaining. The opposition is explaining why they did not support the bill. All right. For those of you who are coming on, thank you very much for joining me on YouTube and on Facebook. When you come on, just click the like button for me, please. Click the like button so that, you can get some nice ratings now. Click the like button for me. All right. Let me say thank you to those of you on Facebook who are already on, and you all are stating your claim, stating how you feel already. All right. So thank you again for those of you on Facebook. All right. So in tonight's news, we saw where Miss Felicia Thomas, the PSC, would have gotten their 10%. All right. persons are asking, persons are saying, thank God that they got the 10%. You know, the government fulfilled their promise in giving the PSA the 10%. I heard today that persons are saying that they're going to get the money because the government already took all the money from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, and that is the money that former Prime Minister Stuart Young is asking about. Even the former Minister of Finance is asking about where did that money go. So some people are saying that is where the money went. The money was put aside to pay public servants from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, their back pay. So they're not coming to the parliament to ask for no money. Alright? They're not coming to ask for no money because they already have the money put aside from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. Cool? So let's take you news side now, where CNC3, where they're talking about the UNC fulfilling the promise of the 10%.
It's official. The Public Services Association has secured its long-awaited 10% wage increase. However, it comes with a caveat. President Felicia Thomas is tonight revealing that only a portion of the back pay would be paid before Christmas, with the rest to follow in the near future.
Several other unions have congratulated the PSA on its successful negotiations, but are tonight asking what about their increases. Shane Superville reports.
Hours of discussions and meetings late into Monday evening eventually came to an end early on Tuesday morning when the 10% wage hike for public servants was signed off. But apart from a bump in salary, the main features of the agreement ensures public servants consolidated cost of living, new salaries from the new year, allowances from 2014, and an advance on arrears before Christmas. But the PSA president explained that advance in back pay will not be the total amount owed to her members.
It means if I owe you $10,000, I give you $2,000 as an advance on what I owe you.
Asked when the rest would be paid, Thomas explained,
we have not completed negotiations. There are a few items still remaining for us to discuss, and we have scheduled to meet in January to continue discussions to finalize all items.
But Thomas said the union is satisfied that its members will at least have some extra money in hand for the holidays.
Just to say it's a figure that would make the membership happy.
Last week, Minister in the Ministry of Public Utilities Clyde Elder made it clear that the PSA's wage hike was unlikely to be repeated for other trade unions. Thomas agreed with Elder's stance, only adding that she wished her fellow Labour leaders the best. Thomas also refuted claims that her endorsement of the UNC during their campaign earlier this year played a part in the PSA's successful negotiations.
We stood against the odds. We stood our ground. We rejected 4%, and today the PSA and our membership, we are reaping the rewards of that.
However, NATUC General Secretary Michael Anisette said he is optimistic that government would be able to address the concerns of other trade unions.
We anticipate, and I speak as the General Secretary of NATUC, that all entities where the government have remit over, that those negotiations will be settled. It is the only fair thing to do, and it will be done as quickly as possible.
Tutor President Crystal Ash said while he was happy for the PSA, he questioned when teachers would be able to receive their salary increase, as many of them face financial challenges.
We're just wondering, at this point in time, how far along has our process gotten? And how close are we to receiving our new salaries, which, as I said, would have been agreed to and signed off in April of 2025. So we're waiting on the new salaries still, and we're also waiting on the back pay for that period.
And the Contractors and General Workers Union also called for immediate action on delayed wage rates. The union says they were told the new rates would be implemented by August 2025 and arrears paid before Christmas. The union says it cannot ignore the glaring disparity in treatment. Shane Superville, CNC3 News.
It's official. The Public Services Association has secured its long-awaited 10% wage increase. However, it comes with a caveat. President Felicia Thomas is tonight revealing that only a portion of the back pay would be paid before Christmas, with the rest to follow in the near future.
Several other unions have congratulated the PSA on its successful negotiations, but are tonight asking what about their increases. Shane Superville reports.
Hours of discussions and meetings late into Monday evening eventually came to an end early on Tuesday morning when the 10% wage hike for public servants was signed off. But apart from a bump in salary, the main features of the agreement ensures public servants consolidated cost of living, new salaries from the new year, allowances from 2014, and an advance on arrears before Christmas. But the PSA president explained that advance in back pay will not be the total amount owed to her members.
It means if I owe you $10,000, I give you $2,000 as an advance on what I owe you.
Asked when the rest would be paid, Thomas explained,
"We have not completed negotiations. There are a few items still remaining for us to discuss, and we have scheduled to meet in January to continue discussions to finalize all items."
But Thomas said the union is satisfied that its members will at least have some extra money in hand for the holidays.
Just to say it's a figure that would make the membership happy.
Last week, Minister in the Ministry of Public Utilities Clyde Elder made it clear that the PSA's wage hike was unlikely to be repeated for other trade unions. Thomas agreed with Elder's stance, only adding that she wished her fellow Labour leaders the best. Thomas also refuted claims that her endorsement of the UNC during their campaign earlier this year played a part in the PSA's successful negotiations.
We stood against the odds. We stood our ground. We rejected 4%, and today the PSA and our membership, we are reaping the rewards of that.
However, NATUC General Secretary Michael Anisette said he is optimistic that government would be able to address the concerns of other trade unions.
We anticipate, and I speak as the General Secretary of NATUC, that all entities where the government have remit over, that those negotiations will be settled. It is the only fair thing to do, and it will be done as quickly as possible.
Tutor President Crystal Ash said while he was happy for the PSA, he questioned when teachers would be able to receive their salary increase, as many of them face financial challenges.
We're just wondering, at this point in time, how far along has our process gotten? And how close are we to receiving our new salaries, which, as I said, would have been agreed to and signed off in April of 2025. So we're waiting on the new salaries still, and we're also waiting on the back pay for that period.
And the Contractors and General Workers Union also called for immediate action on delayed wage rates. The union says they were told the new rates would be implemented by August 2025 and arrears paid before Christmas. The union says it cannot ignore the glaring disparity in treatment. Shane Superville, CNC3 News.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shane Superville. So, you all just saw it, you heard it. The PSC would have gotten their 10%. All right? They would have gotten their 10%. So, but you know what I'm listening to, and I don't know how many of you heard it. I'm hearing where unions are saying that, hey, we ain't get our we would have negotiated to get X, Y, and Z. Some of us ain't get every back pay yet. Some of us haven't got any increase in our salaries. I said, you know, what's going on? Interesting, eh? Interesting. Is it because the government back then did not have the money to pay? But let's see how this goes now. Earlier, you would hear about this, you know. You're going to hear about this. It is not. Let's just wait and see. Let us wait and see how this go. All right. You hear also that they're going to get some of the money for Christmas, and they're not going to get all their money. But let's see that also. Let's see if that will happen too. Let us see if that will happen also. So we have some things to watch to see. It's just so much more weeks before the 18th. We just have to wait to see. Let's have to wait to see. Cool? Elections is called in Tobago. Elections is called in Tobago, and Tobagonians are now heading to the polls. But before I go to the Tobago elections, I wanted to hear your views on 464-7003, 464-7003. What is your view on the PSA and what you have heard so far? What are your views on that? All right? What is your view on that? What is your view on what you have heard with the PSA and the back pay and the and the different things that are being talked about? What is your view? Call me now, 464-7003, 464-7003. Tell me, what is your view now that the PSA has gotten the 10% wage increase? Everybody want 10% now. I saw the people meet a question earlier on today about what do you think? Everybody should get the 10%, and you're hearing it on different on the newscast. The people saying, yeah, give them it. If people want it, the people deserve it. And that's another interesting thing. People are asking for 10% now. Everybody's saying, people asking. So I don't know. What is your view? So let's take some of your calls on 464-7003. 464-7003. What is your view on this issue with Miss Phyllis here and the whole 10% issue? What is your view on it? So taking your calls, 464-7003. I'm waiting to hear from you. Tell me what is your thoughts on it. All right. While I wait for your calls, I see where a PNM person went over to TPP. And there are some questions that people are asking. 1 minute you're seeing he said one thing, now we're seeing something else. What is really going on? What really going on? So people are asking, what is really going on? So so I'm taking your calls. What is your view on the 10% wage increase? We heard Dr. Rowley's position. Dr. Rowley told us, blessed night. Dr. Rowley told us, hey, anytime the PSA get our money, look out for certain things. So we're seeing the PSA got the money. Let us see if what Dr. Rowley and Dee would have said would come to pass. Let's see if what Dr. Rowley had said would come to pass. Very interesting times we're living in, Because there are some people who believe that Dr. Rowley and Mr. Inwood was so wicked that they didn't want to give the people and them their money. They didn't want to give people their money. You understand what I'm saying? That is what some people are saying. That, hey, that's to show you how, look, the UNC taking care of their own people who voted for them. Somebody is saying on YouTube, Pastor, I am seeing problems facing us coming. A season a serious backlash is coming. PSA workers pay. Well, let's see. Let's see. You think so, but I don't think other persons are thinking that way. Remember other caller who call in here and say we didn't get nothing under the PNM, you know. We gain it under the UNC. We don't care when we get it, but we gain it. All right. Somebody said, I confused 10% promise, but a part to be paid and rest. Well, that's how it is. That's how it is. Good night, everyone, on the live Constructive Talk. So, so if you're now joining me and want to know what we're talking about, I just played you a clip of the news. Right, a clip of the news where the PSA has gotten their 10%, and in getting their 10%, they're getting their back pay, but not getting all. They're getting some, and then they're getting the rest later down. All right, and other unions are now calling on the government to give them their just due also. All right, I believe they're getting double pay on month 10, Christmas. Okay. All right, if you think they're getting double pay on month 10 and Christmas, cool. Interesting. What are people on Facebook saying? Trouble, serious. Backlash in the new year. Somebody said trouble, serious backlash in the new year. I didn't look at this as anything. Okay. All right. What are your thoughts? So meanwhile, while I'm waiting on calls, I'm reading some of the messages and some of the messages that persons are sending on Facebook and on YouTube. Somebody saying good evening, everyone, on the chat. All right. So if you're now joining us and you want to know what we're talking about, I'll play it one more time. I'll play the clip one more time for you to see what we're talking about, hear what we're talking about, so that you can share your views via the phone lines. You can call on 464-7003, 464-7003.
Tobagonians will head to the polls on January 12th as the Chief Secretary finally declares the date for the Tobago House of Assembly election.
During a rally for the Tobago People's Party in Scarborough last evening, Farley Augustine announced that he has already advised the Prime Minister of the date,
that's the wrong
and
clip.
Together they will inform the President. The TPP leader...
No, that's the wrong clip. That's the wrong clip. For those of you who know joining me. Sorry, that's the wrong clip. I didn't queue up that clip to play. Let me pull up the one with Felicia there, who didn't see it. All right, what somebody saying there? The thing is where the government take the money from, or where they getting the money from. Well, as I said to you, there's some people who are saying that they already took the money out of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. That's where we were looking. That's where when Minister Young and they were asking. Remember, Minister Young was asking the question, and even the former Minister of Finance was asking the question. Well, we now understand where they're getting the money from. So for those of you who want to know where they're getting the money from, and the media keep asking that question, where are you all going to get the money from? You realize that they say we will get the money.
It's official. The Public Services Association has secured its long-awaited 10% wage increase. However, it comes with a caveat. President Felicia Thomas is tonight revealing that only a portion of the back pay would be paid before Christmas, with the rest to follow in the near future.
Several other unions have congratulated the PSA on its successful negotiations, but are tonight asking what about their increases. Shane Superville reports.
Hours of discussions and meetings late into Monday evening eventually came to an end.
So they're not getting the whole back pay. They're getting part of the back pay. They're not getting the whole back pay. They're getting part of the back pay. Interesting. They're not getting the whole back pay. They're getting part of the back pay. Cool? Are you cool with that? All right. Let's continue to listen. Part of the back pay they're getting, not the whole thing.
It's official. The Public Services Association has secured its long-awaited 10% wage increase. However, it comes with a caveat. President Felicia Thomas is tonight revealing that only a portion of the back pay would be paid before Christmas, with the rest to follow in the near future.
Several other unions have congratulated the PSA on its successful negotiations, but are tonight asking what about their increases. Shane Superville reports.
Hours of discussions and meetings late into Monday evening eventually came to an end early on Tuesday morning when the 10% wage hike for public servants was signed off. But apart from a bump in salary, the main features of the agreement ensures public servants consolidated cost of living, new salaries from the new year, allowances from 2014, and an advance on arrears before Christmas. But the PSA president explained that advance and back pay will not be the total amount owed to her members.
It means if I owe you $10,000, I give you $2,000 as an advance on what I owe you.
Asked when the rest would be paid, Thomas explained,
"We have not completed negotiations. There are a few items still remaining for us to discuss, and we have scheduled to meet in January to continue discussions to finalize all items."
But Thomas said the union is satisfied that its members will at least have some extra money in hand for the holidays.
Just to say it's a figure that would make the membership happy.
Last week, Minister in the Ministry of Public Utilities Clyde Elder made it clear that the PSA's wage hike was unlikely to be repeated for other trade unions. Thomas agreed with Elder's stance, only adding that she wished her fellow Labour leaders the best. Thomas also refuted claims that her endorsement of the UNC during their campaign earlier this year played a part in the PSA's successful negotiations.
We stood against the odds. We stood our ground. We rejected 4%, and today the PSA and our membership, we are reaping the rewards of that.
However, NATUC General Secretary Michael Anisette said he is optimistic that government would be able to address the concerns of other trade unions.
We anticipate, and I speak as the General Secretary of NATUC, that all entities where the government have remit over, that those negotiations will be settled. It is the only fair thing to do, and it will be done as quickly as possible.
Tutor President Crystal Ash said while he was happy for the PSA, he questioned when teachers would be able to receive their salary increase, as many of them face financial challenges.
We're just wondering, at this point in time, how far along has our process gotten? And how close are we to receiving our new salaries, which, as I said, would have been agreed to and signed off in April of 2025. So we're waiting on the new salaries still, and we're also waiting on the back pay for that period.
And the Contractors and General Workers Union also called for immediate action on delayed wage rates. The union says they were told the new rates would be implemented by August 2025 and arrears paid before Christmas. The union says it cannot ignore the glaring disparity in treatment. Shane Superville, CNC3 News.
So I played it a second time for those of you who now joining us and wondering what we're talking about. So we're talking and we're looking at the PSC workers getting their 10%, but they're not getting their whole back pay. They're not getting their whole back pay. Alright? They're not getting their whole back pay. They're getting part. Okay? What is your view? So the number to call is 464-0773. 464-0773. That is the number to call. All right? So even though I played it again, I know that a lot of you would have heard some things that you think, hey, I didn't, okay, I know you're in this part. Oh, okay, this is interesting. Oh, all right, okay. What is your view? What is your view? I picked up on some things, especially where they're not getting the money. They're not getting all the money for Christmas. That is one. Two, they get it. There was no clarity of when they will get the money. The rest, no clarity. Right? No clarity. I don't know, you know. I don't know. So, do I have up the right number? I realize nobody ain't calling. 464-7003. I just realized like nobody ain't calling tonight. What's going on? So, I don't know. I really don't know. So I wait to hear from you. What are your thoughts about it? I really wait to hear from you this evening. The callers of Constructive Talk. What is your thoughts about Miss Felicia? With my partner who call and tell me, well, hey, what? What are your thoughts? All right, so I await your calls on 464-7003, 464-7003. People fed up, somebody said. People fed up, somebody said on live. Is it that you all are fed up? Somebody said people remember the union on the side to push things to make the government look good. Okay. All right. If you believe that, that's cool. That's cool. So what is your view? What is your view? In the meanwhile, while I wait for your calls and while I, wait for your calls and I, look at make you hear what your views are. Well, as I said to you, Tobago elections is heating up. So last night, Mr. Fali Augustine, the Tobago House of Assembly Chief Sec, would have called the date. All right? He called out the date. He said, hey, this is the date for the Tobago House of Assembly elections. All right? So let's take a listen in the news what happened or what it is going on in the Tobago House of Assembly elections. Let's take a listen to Mr. Fali. And to those of you who are on the live, good evening again. Thank you for joining me. So we're going into the politics a little bit. And we're going to listen to Mr. Fali Augustine. And I want to see if anybody will pick up on what the first thing I recognize and I saw. So take a listen to Mr. Fali Augustine. Take a listen to the news.
Tobagonians will head to the polls on January 12th as the Chief Secretary finally declares the date for the Tobago House of Assembly election.
During a rally for the Tobago People's Party in Scarborough last evening, Fali Augustine announced that he has already advised the Prime Minister of the date and together they will inform the president. The TPP leader expects the president will issue the election writ on December 5th, while nomination day will be on December 22nd. Last evening, the party unveiled its 15 candidates, and in addressing the crowd, Augustine spoke on the controversial radar issue. Augustine said Tobago's foreign policy is that it will be minding its own business, and while the United States' tension with Venezuela seems to escalate, Tobago will not support any war. However, he said he strongly believes the Chief Secretary should have a seat on the National Security Council, and he believes the TPP can bring about that change to the law.
I don't like outsiders in my space trying to control my space from wherever they are. That is the ethos of every Tobagonian. But the reality of the global world that we live in is that partnerships will be formed. And until Tobago and Tobagonians fight and ensure that we have a say when it comes to international relations and Tobago, then we will continue to have a situation where somebody could sit somewhere else and make a decision for us.
Meanwhile, there was a major surprise during the unveiling of candidates. The TPP had already revealed 13 of its 15 candidates on November 24th, and last evening the final 2 were unveiled. Ian Pollard was again chosen to defend the Mason Hall-Moriah district, but the real bombshell of the night was the unveiling of its Buku-Mount Pleasant candidate. The party chose Keegan Denoon, who had moments earlier that day resigned as the PNM's Tobago West chairman. Augustine said the TPP has always attracted top talent from rival parties.
We are all Tobagonians fighting for a better Tobago and fighting to ensure that we build the greatest little island on the planet. And so, our final candidate is a gentleman who some hours ago was the chairman of PNM Tobago West.
This will be the TPP's first THE election since breaking away from the Progressive Democratic Patriots in 2023. Meanwhile, Keegan Denoon says his decision to part ways with the PNM came after a wave of support from young people in his community urging him to represent them under any political banner. He told CNC3 News that moment led to deep reflection and ultimately convinced him to put people before party. The 29-year-old denied that he offered himself to the PNM for the THE election and was blanked, thus leading to him switching sides. Denoon said he was approached by the TPP, but could not immediately recall exactly when that happened. Denoon, who will square off in Buku-Mount Pleasant against the PNM's Tobago Council leader Ansel Dennis, said he holds no animosity towards the party and has even received words of encouragement from senior members.
Tobagonians will head to the polls on January 12th as the Chief Secretary finally declares the date for the Tobago House of Assembly election.
During a rally for the Tobago People's Party in Scarborough last evening, Farley Augustine announced that he has already advised the Prime Minister of the date, and together they will inform the President. The TPP leader expects the President will issue the election writ on December 5th, while nomination day will be on December 22nd. Last evening, the party unveiled its 15 candidates, and in addressing the crowd, Augustine spoke on the controversial radar issue. Augustine said Tobago's foreign policy is that it will be minding its own business, and while the United States' tension with Venezuela seems to escalate, Tobago will not support any war. However, he said he strongly believes the Chief Secretary should have a seat on the National Security Council, and he believes the TPP can bring about that change to the law.
I don't like outsiders in my space trying to control my space from wherever they are. That is the ethos of every Tobagonian. But the reality of the global world that we live in is that partnerships will be formed. And until Tobago and Tobagonians fight and ensure that we have a say when it comes to international relations and Tobago, then we will continue to have a situation where somebody could sit somewhere else and make a decision for us.
Meanwhile, there was a major surprise during the unveiling of candidates. The TPP had already revealed 13 of its 15 candidates on November 24th, and last evening the final 2 were unveiled. Ian Pollard was again chosen to defend the Mason Hall-Moriah district, but the real bombshell of the night was the unveiling of its Buku-Mount Pleasant candidate. The party chose Keegan Denoon, who had moments earlier that day resigned as the PNM's Tobago West chairman. Augustine said the TPP has always attracted top talent from rival parties.
We are all Tobagonians fighting for a better Tobago and fighting to ensure that we build the greatest little island on the planet. And so, our final candidate is a gentleman who some hours ago was the chairman of PNM Tobago West.
This will be the TPP's first THE election since breaking away from the Progressive Democratic Patriots in 2023. Meanwhile, Keegan Denoon says his decision to part ways with the PNM came after a wave of support from young people in his community urging him to represent them under any political banner. He told CNC3 News that moment led to deep reflection and ultimately convinced him to put people before party. The 29-year-old denied that he offered himself to the PNM for the THE election and was blanked, thus leading to him switching sides. Denoon said he was approached by the TPP but could not immediately recall exactly when that happened. Denoon, who will square off in Buku-Mount Pleasant against the PNM's Tobago Council leader Ansel Dennis, said he holds no animosity towards the party and has even received words of encouragement from senior members.
All right. What's all your thoughts? What is your thoughts, boy? What is all... Get out. This place getting sweeter and sweeter and sweeter as the day go by, you know. Sweeter and sweeter and sweeter as the day go by. So, somebody call me and tell me what you feel now. What you thinking? What was your thoughts when you saw the launch last night? They launched last night. What's all your thoughts? So while I wait for your calls, so the young man who left the PNM and went over to the TPP, I saw a video circulating on social media. I don't know how many of you saw it or heard it, but take a listen to this video. Now, this video is making its wrongs around social media. Alright? This video is making its wrongs around social media. Take a listen to this video earlier. Tell me what you think.
Why not stop playing it? I come in here straight to the point. Me when I beat from the bush or dance around. Mr. Keegan Denoon, your name been calling that you file to go up against the PNM for PDP. If that is the case, partner, just delete yourself from the group, PNM group. Please resign your position and press. Me no business who vex. If you know you're running for against the PNM, partner, do the right thing. Now, do the honorable thing.
Several days later.
Some people have been speculating that I have been already screened, which is the furthest thing from the truth. I mean, propaganda and confusion would always be the conversation of the day. As I was saying, that tongue has been saying a lot. And I am very happy for the opportunity to clear the air and remind Tobago that I remain steadfast in the work that I have been doing, and I would continue to do the work to advance this little island. Tobago is an environment where rumors spread faster than the truth. What I have seen over the past couple of weeks is people speculating, having their own conversations and not going based on the facts.
Our final candidate is a gentleman who some hours ago was the chairman of PNM Tobago West.
You hear lie? That is lie. Lie. You hear lie?
Me nothing to see. I don't want nothing to see. Me have nothing to see. I remember the days when we used to go to Bigo to help them with the elections. They used to put you in the place, you know. So you see, moi have nothing to see. All I will do is take your calls. 464-7003. 464-7003. That's what I will do. Take calls from Tobago, take calls from Trinidad, and take some calls. Let's remember that on Thursday, the People's National Movement is having a political meeting in Tunapuna. Tunapuna, get ready. The People's National Movement is coming your way. All right, I'm seeing people sending me messages on our WhatsApp number, but you can also call on our WhatsApp number, which is 464-7003. Someone sent me a voice note. Let me see what this voice note is about. Take calls from Trinidad. Take some calls. Let's remember that on Thursday, the People's National Movement is happening. Okay. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Pastor Google.
Hi, good evening.
You're making me laugh. You know, if like it was up on the road in the theater, I only have to sneak on and out of the valley. Yeah, so, because evening funeral, yeah, look what we're doing. We have to do guys work. They have reading for that thing. And I whole set up theater and just do this. They call out some better. They don't call it now. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I mean, you could have did before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is what it is, man. I don't know, as you say, I keep them out of that Tobago business.
All right. So, thank you very much. Yeah, man. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening, Pastor Google.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm okay. How are you?
I am good. I haven't called in a while, but I'm tuning in every night. After a while, they'll let us go when they get frustrated. Let me start with the PSA. I heard Felicia saying that they're getting the 10% had nothing to do with the government and supporting the government, something to that effect.
Yes.
It had everything to do with the government and the promise. That is why they're saying promise make, promise keep.
Thank you.
It's
so I don't know how she. Thank you.
you.
So I don't know why she's who's she trying to fool with that?
And she and all sit down in her office when they had the first talk with the deputy CPO and said promise make, promise keep. It's a collision of interests. Everybody's there for their own interest, not Trinidad and Tobago. They don't care what happened to Trinidad and Tobago after. Give me everything one time, tomorrow see for itself. Require different story. After all, they say God is a training. You know, I think he will prove us wrong one day if we continue with that attitude. The next one you see jumping and waving is the OWTU. They're getting refinery. I think it's next year's local election.
Yes.
So I think we'll set the trend for all these things until after the local election. Then I think everything will come full circle and all will see all that they ain't getting because of circumstances. I don't know how much young people will know about when the country was at the World Bank and they take control of your country. We don't have a say. Government don't have a say in what take place when things happen there. I pray to God that we don't get there. The Tobago issue. I heard that video that circulating about 2 weeks ago. This man sat down and he said the people like propaganda and rumors and this and that lie. Is that somebody you will trust to send to the assembly to sit down to seek your interest if he can lie like that to the people of Tobago and the wider world because of
Hi, caller, you reconnecting? I don't know what's happening. Caller?
it had a song. I think it's a snake in the valley. Check it out.
All right, thank you very
I
much.
think that's suit that what happened there with that young man. Have a
Okay.
blessed and wonderful day.
Same to you. Same to you. All right. So your number to call, people are getting through, so you can call in now. The number to call is 464-7003. 464-7003. 464-7003. That is the number you can call in. Let me know what is your view on the matters that we are discussing so far. I'm seeing people keep sending me the video of this young lady. I got the video about that young lady, and it's really interesting, you know. It's really interesting, that young lady, what her experience. That young lady experience is not strange, but it's how she's tying it in to what's happening in America and what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago. And she's talking about radio stations that are endorsing certain mindsets. Hello, good evening.
Good night, Pastor Google.
Hi, good evening.
You know what shocked me with Sally?
Hey, you're a Tobago friend?
No.
I mean, my Venezuelan friend?
No.
Oh, sorry.
This is a caller.
Sorry, is this a new caller?
No.
Oh, okay.
A caller, but I don't tell her all the time.
All right.
You know. You know what shocked me with Sally? He not calling for autonomy again, you know. He calling to have a secret national security in the country. He fighting for no autonomy again, right? For Tobago, no. He don't want Tobago to be separate again from Trinidad. He finds it's good now underneath this UN, but I hope Tobagonians open their eyes and see what it is going on and vote wisely for election.
But before you go, did you observe how much persons was in attendance at that meeting?
Yeah, I saw, because you find the crowd well?
I find that's a big crowd.
Well, you have to remember, a lot of people rather evil more than good, you know.
Right.
And we just have to work. It's at that time, Pastor Guido, 10 years ago. When you go to Tobago, the taxi drivers in there, they had was to be playing gospel music to get full, you know. Anytime different music used to be playing, people never used to travel, you know.
Right.
So that's how, you know. But now, the people, like all the elders, you know, who really know God, plenty, like most of them die out, and the youth and them used to be kind of things that's going on in the carnival over there, Pastor Google.
Yeah.
Such a nasty things was going on there, so they to show you how Tobago is not reckless, you know, like, you know, they're blinded. But, well, we have to pray for them, you know. Let's be praying for them and cover them, you know, in the blood of the Lord, and hope that they see the way, you know, that's very release. Because since Miss Kamala went there, look what happened over there. It was such a killing, small petty robberies, all kinds. Listen, people mixing up themselves and all sorts of things, and going and spreading the things all over the place. And, you know, so we have to pray for them just like Trinidad. Right? You have a blessed night, Pastor Buddha.
Okay, thank you very much for your call. Thank you very much. So we're taking your calls on 464-7003, 464-7003. Yep, we're talking about what's happening. The Tobago elections has been called on the 12th of January 2026. And we saw where last night the Chief Secretary, Fali Augustine, would have launched the campaign. He launched the campaign last night, and he had a former PNM chairman of Buku on his platform. I tell you, all I see is interesting. He said, the young man said that the reason why he has gone over to the TPP is because the young people in his community told him that, you know, they wanted him to go over. That's interesting, huh? It's really interesting. Hello, good evening.
Pastor, good night. Pastor, I want to highlight something. Last night when I called, right? I was amongst the last callers, and I was recounting a scenario that took place, right? Where I was in a conversation with PNM reps, and I told you that they were looking at commonality grounds, right? And I was opposed to it. To last night, while the show was going on, we saw where this man hijacked himself and went across to the party, right? Now, this is a regular occurrence happening? Is this what we're going to see happening now within our party? Because it happened up in for Mr. Foster Cummins with Mr. Watts.
No, well, Mr. Watts,
right?
no, you can't use the two. You can't generalize it. I don't think you should generalize it. Why? Mr. Watts left because he was unhappy with a situation, and he left. Right? This young man is saying that he left because the young people from Buku said to him that they wanted him to go up.
Pastor, you don't feel that is an excuse rubbed off to the public's interest to put for the public?
Okay, so then what do you think is the reason why he left?
Pastor, I feel they were courted. They were courted.
I mean, they were courted.
Pastor, but they were bought. That's what I think.
Okay.
They were bought.
So you think that he was bought over to the TPP, the Tobago People's Party, to go up against the leadership of the PNM, which is Mr. Ansel Dennis?
Well, correct, Pastor. I that is my personal belief, because this is what is happening in the country right. And
well, I don't know that Mr. Watts was bought out. I don't know that Mr. Watts was bought out because Mr. Watts got how much contracts under Mr. Foster Cummings in the sense of under the community. And you know what is amazing is that I remember they put out the amount of contracts that Mr. Watts would have gotten under the People's National Movement and how much money he would have gotten for those contracts under the People's National Movement. And yesterday, somebody from that community was talking to me and telling me that they cannot get in contact with Mr. Watson. He's not taking their phone calls.
Anyway, Pastor, I understand I'll be in what you're commenting, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just a pattern I'm watching. To me, as a young person observing on the PNM, I greatly appreciate what is the opposition leader and her approach. One, she is going back to a sort of education program, talking about our civics of how we morally rule a country. And that is a very, very good eye for where she's going. You also come into a point later on in your show, because you just mentioned before the other callers came on just now. There's a video circulating, and I spoke about this syndicate that you're dealing with. Is a syndicate where the young Indo lady talked about the Magna cult that these people subscribe to. She showed you from a timeline, and you'll play it later on. I don't want to disturb your program, but time if you feel to, where she talked about a certain radio program that instilled hatred amongst African people, where our party needs to be strong. Pastor, that is my contribution for now. Thank you.
I think it broke up a little bit there. You said about before you. All I heard was when you said that the party needs to be strong. But before that, what did you say?
I was commenting about there's a video that you alerting us to, that you listen to, right? Where an Indian woman was given a description of how the syndicate operates. The syndicate I'm talking about is the UNC, and it started ago. There's a timeline. She will introduce it. If you gladly video for us tonight, it may open our eyes. And there's a certain radio station that she alerted us to that voiced some of the hatred to the African people. Right? And the hatred to African people.
Right.
And this is where our party, which is the PNM party, I believe, when I'm seeing people running across and being bought out, we need to really go back to the foundation of education of Dr. Williams. And I could bring up one example for that. Over the weekend, Pastor, Mr. Hilary Beckles, that is either the UE president, it wasn't picked up as yet. He made a statement that he believes Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa is a great person with vision, on par with Dr. Eric Williams, by opening the campus in UE. I do not see any comparison there, but that is what he said. So this is where things trigger down. It causes a disruption. It causes disunity. It brainwash. And we have to be careful. We have to stand up. And I believe from how we are approaching, and I commend the opposition leader for this, we are going on a correct approach. It may be snail-paced. It may be snail-paced as a young person. It may be snail-paced because we want action. We want immediate results. But I think this is the way to go. Thanks for making my little contribution. We will continue to listen to the program.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Wow. Interesting. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Pastor Google.
Yes, sir.
I think that young man deserves a round of applause, because his ideology or his thought process and pattern varies with mine, Pastor Google. You want one example? When the American soldier came here a few days ago, right? Sometime last week, Thursday. When he left, what was one of the things they said he had when he came here and about to leave, Pastor Google? Remember?
No, I don't.
Huh?
No, I don't. Tell me now.
Doubles.
Well, there are people who don't believe that he had it, but go ahead.
That is not the point. Well, yes. But understand the signal that was sent with that statement. You understand that? All right. I want you to understand, we have if you remember Kurt Mayhew's statement, there's a clip going around with Kurt Mayhew stating to us that they were oppressed, and Christians and Catholics on the East-West corridor, and it is their time now to fight back and stand up. You understand what that means?
I hear you. Go ahead.
So when the young man makes that statement, and a university professor or principal could try to compare this prime minister with our past prime minister, the man who brought back Shagaramas, took back Waterfield, and now we're back in the same position that we went up. How could you compare both? So we have a group of people intent to skew history, to wipe out the history of a particular race in order that they could get on top to be done. They already have financial dominance. They already attain political dominance. But here where they can't attain, the first person in Trinidad and Tobago to win a gold medal, the first female of African descent to become Miss Universe, boxers, Hazley Crawford. That is what identifies Trinidad and Tobago. And you see that little thing there is an issue. But they can't move that. History cannot change that. And we have to teach we children that part of our history. To let them know that we are not second-class citizens in this country. That is the issue. A group of people intend to make us second-class citizens. I ain't going down that road, Pastor Google. That is why a union man could come to make that statement. That if you're enjoying up, here what they're telling me, these people who didn't sign up and make noise for the 10% can't ask for no 10% now. So what's in Duke when he take 5% and jump on the plane and go and them get a 9% and he come back and get the 4 to make up the 10? Come Munilal and tell him take 5% and why to decide, you know? So we have to be foolish, Pastor Google. Enjoy your night. Young man, kudos to you. At least teach the younger ones like yourself what a group of people intend to take away from young men or young African people like yourself. The history of Trinidad and Tobago. Or rewrite the history of Trinidad and Tobago to suit their narrative. Let's put it that way. Their intention is to rewrite the history of Trinidad and Tobago to suit their narrative. Enjoy your night, Pastor Google.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, that's so much to talk about. That video, I think I need to play that video just now because, you know what I mean? There's so much things happening. So much things to talk about, you know. What I want to touch on, because we touching and going, because if I stay on Farley too long, we wouldn't be able to touch on everything. So one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is the Nutrimix. Nutrimix. You really hear what's going on, boy, with farmers? Well, people, let me tell you something now. It have some people who on social media trying to dismiss former Minister of Energy, Stuart Young, trying to dismiss him and make him look like a troublemaker and make him look as though he know what he's saying. You only remember what Minister Young said to us what happened? Listen to this news report. Some only need to share this, you know. Share this live, you know. Because some of you are not keeping this thing to yourself and saying, yeah, it's a good show and yeah, informative and yeah. But there are people who need to know what is going on. Listen to this.
News since Canadian fertilizer giant Nutrien shut its doors in October, urea has been in critically short supply, forcing consumers to brace for higher food costs. In an interview on CNC3's Morning Brew program on Tuesday, Agricultural Society President Darrell Rampasad said farmers across the country are feeling the pinch.
And when we have a higher input cost for agriculture, some farmers tend to lower the amount of crops that they are growing to be able to successfully maintain the crop at the same time. So where you would have a farmer who are producing 10 acres, they would probably start producing 7 acres. And the trickle-down effect with our market being supply and demand is that obviously producing less is going to lead to higher food prices.
Rampersad is calling for urgent measures to support farmers, starting with an incentivization program.
Pineapple farmers in Tableland and Williamsville warn that remaining stocks of urea are running out. They say alternative fertilizers are more expensive and less effective, which will cause food prices to soar as Christmas approaches. Williamsville pineapple farmer Rupchan Chandabali says his young plants are showing signs of stress and production will drop if nitrogen fertilizer doesn't return to the market.
When we have young pines and into salt, I mean, we just use other salt too, but you guys one of our main salt we just use.
So how you coping with this?
Well, we hoping we get soon. We hoping things work out now. But for the while, we got to improvise handling.
Agronomist Jason Telock says alternative fertilizers are more expensive and less effective.
It goes up from 180, it will go to 230, it will go to 225, it will go to 175. But at present, some people are asking up to 390, 400, 450 for a bag of urea, depending on what it is. And because farmers do not have a choice and their crops are in dire need of this specific source of nitrogen, they are purchasing it. So at present, it's affected the farmers deeply. I've been having a lot of personal consultation with the work that I've been doing with farmers, and it's really a strain on them at present.
Agriculture Minister Ravi Ratiram did not respond to calls or messages, but his advisor tells CNC3 News he will address the issue later on as he was engaged in the Senate. Minister in the ministry Saddam Hussein also did not respond to messages.
Is that urgent? It's not urgent. It's not urgent. It's not urgent enough to be to take a call for that. It's not urgent enough. Real interesting, eh? Real interesting, oh yeah. Me? Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Oh, yeah, good evening, Pastor Google.
Hi, good evening.
Now they wouldn't know about that, Pastor Google. They'll probably tell them to go back to natural things like using animal urine and human urine now to make up for the urea. That's how they'll see it. They'll probably see it as a short-term measure. They'll tell them to go back to basics. You hear me, Pastor Google?
Oh, yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, I want some people suggesting maybe them farmers should use human and animal urine to make up for the urea. Because they say urea come from urine. That's the solution, you know.
Interesting.
Pastor Google. And with respect to the Bacchanal going into Tobago, let me tell you something, Pastor Google. The concept of people moving from PNM to other parties is nothing new. I think it has been done years before. But like I say again, Tobagonians have a different type of politics. But you see what makes it unique with that fella is that you maintain that you were still PNM and you join the party or before you resign. So you're still with the PNM.
Mm-hmm.
So make it make sense. Something that hasn't up at all. You know, what I can tell you, just take me out of Tobago politics because Tobagonians is a different fish by itself. Because right now, there are some people in the TPP who saying that certain PNM people invaded the party and it look more PNM than TTP. I real confused by that statement. And there already have some backgrounds already. I don't know if you hear it in Facebook pages with certain social media influencers. But
yeah, I have one to play though.
Right? They were talking about Pollard and Trevor. If they moved them across the Bacchanal, and certain TTP activists was incensed because They don't want to move, but I think they held on to the seats, but there was a bacchanal by itself. And they're accusing certain PNM people of being involved in it. And then Watson Duke, I don't know what's going on with Watson Duke, some say that he aligned himself with the TPP.
They say Watson Duke well quiet. They say like Watson Duke give up. His popularity isn't strong enough to say.
Well, ungratefulness and karma is a hell of a thing. The same man who founded the PDP and spawned the TPP. That's what they treat him Watson Duke now. But like I say, karma is a hell of a thing, Pastor Google. And you see, he is responsible for what's going on with PSA. With all that 5% and 10% talk. He is the man responsible for all this strife between animosity between the union and PNM, the PNM government. So, he's the main man. You have a good night, Pastor Google.
Same to you, sir. All right, so listen to one of the TPP supporters. Listen to what she had to say. This lady, you know now, Olio, pray for Fali, pray.
There is a political earthquake shaking here in Tobago, and it have some people in this little Tobago who wants to destroy this little Tobago. And I have placed myself on the side of Tobago for all these years. You understand me? I have placed myself on the side of Tobago for all these years. And we have a high place here in Tobago that you, Mr. Chief, I don't know what it is. These demoniac people. And let me tell you, you must read the spirit of prophecy. You say you're Adventist like me. Listen. Here we are saying. So you have some devil worshippers, devils, who you have always taken the hand, putting the dirty oil on you, putting you around the center pole, and now I make a disclaimer. There is a political earthquake shaking here in Tobago, and it have some people in this little Tobago who wants to destroy this little Tobago. And I have placed myself on the side of Tobago for all these years. You understand me? I have placed myself on the side of Tobago for all these years. And we have a high place here in Tobago that you, Mr. Chief, I don't know what it is. These demoniac people. And let me tell you, you must read the spirit of prophecy. You say you're Adventist like me. Listen. Here we are saying. So you have some devil worshippers, devils, who you have always taken the hand, putting the dirty oil on you, putting you around the center pole, and now I make a disclaimer. It is not all people who have the Baptist faith who into nastiness, but it have a specific set of them who you does God deal with. Because it's Baptist people who meet me and ask me, why it is you allow those people to be putting their hand on you? Well, I now see that they do you in and they do you well. They do you very good. Break the chains of these evil women. Broke the chains. You understand me? The one where she daddy and she mama them always turn up your head and tie up your head. And put you on the center pole. And all them stupidness there. Break them thing there. You cannot be so disrespectful, and I'm telling you, Chief, you're disrespectful. And people who is members of this party will need to call and no confidence in the whole executive there. Get rid of them and have another election to and bring in people. Nonsense. You see them people who you like to circle yourself with, and wherever they just take and shake over your head, and wherever they must just give you to eat and to drink, you better stop. If you know, Mr. Chief, that you made a deal with the PNM to bring chaos across here with the PNM woman that you have there, the PNM witch that you bring across here, that PNM don't want, who slapped she mother in she face on a campaign. If you tell yourself that that is your purpose with she, to mash up the party, unless she has you inside of here, brother, It will not end well with you. And let me tell you, you know when if the Tobago spit you out, you're well spit out. You're well spit out.
You see me? I tell Leonard getting involved in the Tobago Couture and Bacchanal. I just played for it to hear that all is not well in the house of the TPP. Okay? I just played for it to know that all is not well in the house of the TPP. Okay? Cool? So let me out of the people that couture now, right? I don't want no part. 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 You know, she say to be go have a high ground. Yeah, sad people going up on the high ground in Tobago. Okay? So only leave me out of the Bacchanal. Leave me out. I don't want no part. I don't want no part. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Pastor Google.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening to your listeners and callers. It is amazing, Pastor Google, that the farmers are showing they have such a concern that there's scarce urea.
Yes.
But you will note they're not blaming the government
No.
for that reason.
Mm-mm.
Because it was a P&M that says the government for while they go on, they run nutrient. By nutrient pack up and they gone. You understand? The makers of the methanol, the urea, and so on. They ain't blaming the government for being greedy and attempting to extort 28 million US dollars and threatening that they won't let them use the port. So that they will be able to send out the methanol and the urea to over 30 countries around the world. They threaten them. When you have an attorney general and a chairman of a board threatening a large company like Nutrien and tell them, well, if they don't give us the 28 million US dollars for using our port, we will not allow you to use it. And Nutrien say, well, okay, we'll pack up and we'll go. We'll suspend operations for now. Thank you very much. But they ain't blaming the government for having them in that position where there's a scarcity of urea. You're not blaming them. No. They ain't blaming them at all. But it was a P&M government in office. Then I said that the P&M fault because the P&M run that company. The P&M people who Attorney General, PM board chairman, greedy. I want to extort $28 million US from a company. And that is why we're in this trouble today. They will never say that. They will never hear that come out of their mouth. They say, I don't know. I know what we go do. It's a real expensive, the alternative you have to buy. There is where the difference lies with these people, Pastor Google. It's because this present government was greedy for money, looking for money wherever they could find it right now. But now they have more worries with this 10%. Because now everybody, according to E.V. Stewart, he and all coming for 10% for nurses. He said that is a minimum. Everybody coming for the 10% now. All who have not negotiated already, they want the 10%. Because they say the government have our money. That's how we put it. It's we money they're using. So when Elder can afford to say it was only unions who on the side of this government will be entitled to, you're wrong. That money belongs to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That money that they're negotiating. But you see, when you want to do vote, this is what happens to you. When you want to sit down home in your house and you're vexed. You're vexed with the wrong people. Because look at what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago today. You will see who getting salary for Christmas and who getting back pay. And we will see what's happening next year with the remainder of people who want contract. Because if you notice, people who have contract not getting back the job. So while the farmers want to blame, and everybody want to show concern all over the place, they're pointing in the wrong direction. they are pointing in the wrong direction. Let Farley go long. Let Farley go long. Farley and they have their own issues to deal with. You understand? Because if a prime minister could come and put down a radar in front of your brand new airport and they tell you nothing, she don't care about you. Look at where she have the two members of parliament way down up in the back, way down in the end. They don't even have portfolio. They're like dashboard puppies up in the back. They only need to vote. No, nothing else. They can get a little ministry to do a little work in. So people could go ahead and listen to Farley and the UNC and tell us everything good. Wait. Hold on. Thing coming. You just have to be patient and watch on and see. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. And you know the caller said something, and I'll take this call and I'll play something. All right, so caller, you need to call me back. All right, caller, you were just on the line. You need to call me back. Yeah, you know the caller said something there, and I want to play something. I want to play something for those of you who don't understand what the caller talking about and feel that the caller fear mongering. Or he know what he's saying, and he know what he's saying, and we don't know what we're saying. Well, hear what? We're seeing it after them. We're seeing it after the chairman. We're seeing it after the chairman of the HGC. Hear what he say. Hear what the chairman had to say. Take a listen.
Housing Development Corporation Chairman Feroz Khan is defending his controversial remarks after comparing the HDC to a sick cow riddled with ticks. Khan said he meant no disrespect to the 26 workers whose contracts were not renewed, insisting the analogy was aimed at the corporation's financial troubles, not its staff. The workers were employed with the HDC's construction subsidiary, CCL. Many had continued working and receiving full pay even after their contracts expired, believing they would be renewed. Khan said tough decisions were necessary as the HDC continues to lose money. But the analogy drew sharp criticism from PNM chairman Marvin Gonzalez, who accused the UNC-led administration of repeatedly using derogatory language to describe workers. He said the party has gone from calling people ghosts and criminals to cows riddled with ticks.
You hear that? Let's take this call. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, I'm calling from Point Inside. So, Sam caller.
Thank you very much for calling, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, Pastor Gugu.
Yes, sir.
If people realize September gone, September, October, the most devastating intervention. This is about our capital. This amount of food, this amount of meat we carry all about it. What's the condition of the country right here? Check out the people that will share, check out the whole shit on the business. September, October, Monday, this amount of capital which caused the development of the business. And people not paying enough and people not checking themselves. So we as black people. But I was hoping in this election, but I kind of glad now that you could see that people could open their eyes and see what was going on. Right now, we come out and we're begging. You know, look on TV, look all about it. You know, black people begging all about the place. You know, the fire was selling them. Or they could lost all their work and all they will get this and we didn't want to hear. Let me take that now. Let me see if you go yourself now. Have a blessed day.
Thank you very much, caller.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. Call, don't be a stranger, Mr. Point 14. Don't be a stranger.
I'm watching on TV every night, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. All right. Let me play this other clip for you guys. Listen to this. I want you all to take in this one. So the chairman say they are like tick on a mangy cow. You understand? Tick on a cow. Who is tick on a cow? Who you calling tick? But listen to this one.
The Housing Development Corporation will end its contracts with at least 50 maintenance providers and their employees by year's end. And its chairman has signaled the possibility of further staff reductions at the corporation as Feroz Khan looks to reverse what he says is a decade of severe financial mismanagement. The Housing Development Corporation will end its contracts with at least 50 maintenance providers and their employees by year's end. And its chairman has signaled the possibility of further staff reductions at the corporation as Feroz Khan looks to reverse what he says is a decade of severe financial mismanagement.
In an exclusive interview with CNC3 News, Chairman Feroz Khan sought to paint a picture of the corporation's current financial predicaments, which he said has now led him to take certain corrective actions.
The chairman of the Housing Development Corporation says the entity is in a bad place financially. On top of losing $700 million in fiscal 2025, Chairman Feroz Khan said there's a $40 million overhead bill he's struggling to pay. Of course, a significant part of that overhead is salary and wages, which he said is around $15 or $16 million a month. Now, Khan said he has to pay his staff, but he prefers to have a smaller organization to be able to meet those payments. The AGC chairman said the financial hole was not dug overnight, but rather over the last 10 years under the former PNM administration. But how did the corporation reach this financial state? Well, Khan said homes were being constructed for $1.6 million and sold for only $600,000. He also said maintenance providers were charging exorbitant sums for work like cutting grass, sometimes 6 times the market value. And he even showed us this document where a sewer treatment plant for a Borneo West development ballooned from around $3 million to $34 million. Now, he's made it clear that the 50 maintenance contractors will not have their contracts renewed, as he claims the official tendering process was not followed. Severing ties with them and their associated employees will be done before the end of this year, and he expects to save around $10 million a month with that move. Instead, he said some of the 400 daily paid workers on his pay sheet can do that job instead. Now, apart from the 400 daily paid workers, there are 365 monthly paid employees comprising of about 300 on contracts. Of those 300, already 26 have seen their contracts not renewed. When CNC3 News asked Khan if he will be looking at downsizing further, he said it's not his preferred option, but it's also not outside the realm of possibility. The chairman said it's a tough business decision, but going forward, when the contract for an employee comes to an end, it will not be renewed as easily as they were before. 365 monthly paid employees comprising of about 300 on contracts. Of those 300, already 26 have seen their contracts not renewed. When CNC3 News asked Khan if he will be looking at downsizing further, he said it's not his preferred option, but it's also not outside the realm of possibility. The chairman said it's a tough business decision, but going forward, when the contract for an employee comes to an end, it will not be renewed as easily as they were before. He said a 2-year contract is a 2-year contract, and there's no obligation for the HDC to extend it further. Now, the PSA is the union for these workers. President Felicia Thomas could not be reached for comment, but earlier this week she said the union was shocked by the decision not to renew the contracts of the 26 workers and added that the union will demand their reinstatement.
Interesting, eh? Real interesting, boy. Real interesting, and that is HDC. That is HDC. How much other state agencies are going to be seeing that kind of... And that's the chairman who told him that. The chairman. Yeah, the chairman said that. Eh? The chairman. Oh, yeah. But you see, when this guy told you all that, all you felt that he was wicked. Yeah, he evil. Listen to him.
Let me say here tonight to public servants, wherever you may be, if your president succeeds in removing the PNM from office, many thousands of you will follow that by removing yourself out of your jobs. And let me tell you why. The government of Trinidad and Tobago led most of the years by caring PNM governments, have taken on the responsibility of ensuring a quality of life for people in this country that is now at the level of almost impossible to fund beyond where we are. In a $60 billion budget, The largest expenditure in that budget is on the monthly payment to public servants wherever they might be. Every month, on average, not just public servants on the Gazette, you know, the government supports the payroll of some state enterprises. If WASA doesn't get a $200 billion from the Minister of Finance virtually every month, WASA workers cannot be paid consistently in the way that they have been, you know. But as Prime Minister, I could tell you, the hardest job of the government and of the Prime Minister is to ensure that there are revenues coming in on one side to ensure that expenditure can be supported on the other side. And nobody could give you any other equation. The singular equation that you should be concerned about in this country now is what is our revenue situation and what is our expenditure situation. If you listen to the PSA leader and the UNC and their campaign in 2025, all they are concerned about is improving and expanding the expenditure side of the equation. And to do that, to make it, honey, quote it for you, they tell you things like they will increase public servants' pay by 10%. Ladies and gentlemen, from this platform tonight, I could tell you, once a government comes in and gets on that pathway of making that kind of increase to public servants, the highway has to be labeled two names. One, you are going to end up at the IMF, the International Monetary Fund station, and you're going to get there by the road called devaluation. And let me tell all of you something tonight. If God forbid, and there's a government in office that finds itself without revenues to meet the monthly expenditure to public servants, the one thing that government will not do is to write checks to you and then the checks bounce in the bank. Governments don't operate so. Before you get to that point where the checks will bounce in the bank, you cut the liability of requiring to write the checks. You know what that means? When the government finds itself in a position not being able to pay the payroll, ask Barbados what happened. It's tens of thousands of public servants that come off the payroll. Governments don't have you on the payroll working and can't pay you. They take you off the payroll. In this country, anybody who is telling you that they will incur expenditure that we all know the revenues cannot support, they are telling you in code that they intend to cut the public service. And let me tell you what my source of information tells me when I try to understand what the UNC is about. You know what the UNC is saying quietly and secretly? If they ever get to that situation where they come into office and they can't pay the bills that they're committed to, and they cut the public service, is mainly PNM supporters that will be affected, because the bulk of the public service is East-West Corridor people supporting the PNM.
Oh, Papi. Oh, Papi. It's just left to see now, you know. Really and truly, what people are seeing, it is that, hey, we just waiting to see if what Dr. Oli saying was true. That's what people waiting to see. You know that, right? Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening,
it's a long time I have not called you.
Okay.
But I called you to make to draw to your attention that there is a strong possibility. Now, I came on the show late, not too long ago, but I was following what is going on in the outside news to see the linkage. And there is a strong possibility that we may not have a war going on next door. Now, why I say this is that at the present moment, If you remember the first strike at the boat in September.
Yeah, I remember. I know that there's a situation now where they are they're saying that they strike the boat and some survivors, they had survivors, some who jumped out of the boat, and then they strike it again. And now they're saying that America is saying that that is what, I can't remember the word that they use, and that
is extrajudicial killing illegal.
Yes.
Right, now guess what? It's not just 2 strikes, it's 4 strikes.
It's 4 strikes?
That's right.
Oh my goodness.
And the 4th, that is what it is. Now, according to law, if you strike a boat once and everybody dead or whatever the case may be, okay. But once there are survivors and you lick them up and you hold them and lock them up, once you lick them up, that is against military and so forth and international law. Now, I just moved away from MSNBC.
Now, listen to
you. They covered the meeting, the White House meeting today.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're talking about now, they're trying to shift the blame, but in a nice, sweet way, to the admiral who holding on the post right now, Admiral Bradley.
That's not the one who was here?
No, I think his name is Halsey or something like that.
Okay, yeah, that's why I got the names. Go ahead.
So what is, there's a storm gathering because there are a lot of the Republicans now are in disarray now with, they're not liking what is going on in Venezuela.
Right.
There seems to be in disarray and disagreement. If he's losing his support and all of that in Donald Trump. And they're not too happy with Heskett, who is the man who gave him the signal and thing. Heskett now pulled himself out of it, said that he only saw the first strike, but he knew nothing about the other strikes that day because he was busy, he had to go somewhere and attend meeting and so forth. But by the time he talking about that now, he now hearing, in other words, he playing like he now hearing about it and so forth and thing, right? Donald Trump, of course, him as usual, when things go wrong, he just kind of pull himself out also. Now, just imagine that now. Now, there seems to be a movement now to bring Admiral Ting to talk in front of Congress or whatever the case may be. Now, if you are planning a war and you have an admiral coming to Washington now to explain the killings and so forth, you think the other people in command that you leave down here are going to press any button to kill anybody?
No.
Well, this is what is happening. You see what is happening here, that the local press is not following what is going on in USA. They're only focusing on everything down here. But if people are sitting down in front of their TVs and looking at CNN and MSNBC and cables who are following this thing, they have people stationed and following these things and hearing the conversations and so forth, they're realizing that some momentum is being lost in regard to this thing. So this is why I come. The last time we talked is about the foreign exchange. You remember? England was talking about devaluation, right? And you tell me, well, don't make it the last time to call again and so forth. But that was the last time that we talked. This now, anytime, and one of the commentators was asking to get Admiral Halsey or wherever the black fellow, to be the witness. Now, if he come in, he leave the work right, whether he reside at Busset at God and he tell anybody nothing. So he can make the black man to come as a witness to this admiral when he's striking with the bacchanal that is going to brew.
Yes.
Right? So I just want you to when tomorrow also pay attention to what is happening with this case and the strikes and so forth, and hear what is happening, and you will be able to piece together who is planning what and what is planning and try to make the link with what is happening down here.
Right.
And you will see that something is happening there because we're only getting the news outside, so you have to make the connections, right? So I just call it to make you aware so that you could tune in. To tune into what is happening outside there with the case that is going on, because it seems like a lot of people don't like the fact that people with murdered survivors and they don't like it.
Yes. But right? I'll tell you this. You see, now No, where that is going on there, let me tell you what, because there are some people who believe that there's a deal that was struck between Ms. Bisasa and Donald Trump, right? And they believe that they will get a little kakada. They believe in that again, a little kakada. Now, if this what you see in here happens, it means that they may not get the kakada again, you know.
And this is what I'm telling you. This is what but let me give you another bombshell now. He pardoned the former president of Honduras. And the president of Honduras, who was making a deal, he went to court and was convicted. And guess what? Drugs, pushing drugs and illegal substances in America. So how you could pardon, like Donald Trump, pardon a president of Honduras for drug smuggling and so forth, and you're going after Maduro for the same crime? Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't.
This is what I tell. Make the connection, Pastor Google. You're good in that. Make the connection, save your tape, and show it to the people that unite and what is happening. And say, because people are trying, the stations or the cable stations are making connections and so forth. So you have to watch what is happening. Don't take your eye off of here.
But what I think I would
what
do,
is happening outside?
What I think I would do is I would talk to my father, and I will try and get Uncle JJ, because he is older. He's a lawyer out there too, and Uncle JJ should be very, very aware of what is happening. So if we get Uncle JJ's perspective, my father's perspective, and then we put the icing on the cake with the different clips from the news out there to bring people awareness to what it is really happening in America. Because I was following a story where they were saying that they was planning to impeach Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, you see what is happening. They're realizing that he is not himself these days. He's losing he's not on the top of his game. Like, he's distracted, he's disoriented. Like, his cognitive ability seems to be losing it. All of that is coming into the mix. Yeah, people, and the people who are saying that is not 2x4 people, and the people who are experts in various fields in medicine and military and all them kind of things. They have their papers in everything.
But you know what, caller? There are certain media houses, a certain talk show hosts and things will not share those information, because remember, they were supporting Donald Trump, you know.
Well,
we have a radio announcer every morning. He used to come on and say this is not 1962.
Yeah.
When was the last time you hear him say that?
Yeah, well, he's changing it too now.
It's only 1962 when it's PNM in office, but when other people in office, it's not 19. He forget about that 1962 talk.
Yeah, but how do you explain pardoning a man for drug smuggling who is president of Honduras? You know where Honduras is? Honduras is coming down in the region area. Not so?
Yes.
Honduras is not in the Middle East or so forth. So you pardon a man for drug smuggling. It's on TV, they're showing you over and over how he's being led away in chains and so forth. You pardon him for drug smuggling, and everybody asking the question, why you pardon this drug smuggler? But you're going after a so-called drug smuggler in Venezuela. And they say, that don't make sense. So this is why I think
and then I remember somebody sent me a clip with Dr. Rowley on the platform. I think it was at a PNM convention, when he said that Ms. Bisasa used to be calling Maduro a narco trafficker.
But this is what I'm saying. But anytime you see this Republican Party fall, it's bacchanal, you know. It's bacchanal, wherever in the dark will going to come out in the light.
Yeah, my father says that anytime you see the fall, you'll never see office again for the next 30 years. But I believe in that, nah? If UNC could come back, if the UNC could come back after 10 years, who is the Republican?
No. Too much damage, too much people have been hurt. Too much people have been hurt.
Mr. Sir, did you see anything in Trinidad here?
Yeah.
Look what going on in Trinidad here.
Because we didn't pass the battle. We didn't pass the battle properly. And we're not grateful.
see where you going with that day? Let me leave you alone. You see where you going with that day? You see you said something there? That is it, you know. And let me tell you something. PNM needs to learn proper succession. They don't have proper succession planning. Let me be real. Let us be real. If they have proper succession planning, this would we would have never been where we in today.
Yeah, well, that is the fact. But if you notice, on every station now, you have people trying to control the narrative.
Yes. Yes.
They're invading and trying to control the narratives. But you see, the thing about it is, once you have outside television showing things that making connections that not making sense to what is happening down here, people will start to scratch their head and wonder what's going on. You see? So there is a possibility that that Donald Trump may have to take his ship and go back. He may have to, otherwise on that, if he continues down this line, and them army men who down here realize that they admiral up there have to be facing a stiff questions and answers, and he can't give proper answers, then nobody down here who controlling the ship down here going to break the law. Because right now, anybody who say take out Maduro or do this or do that or the other, and it comes across in international circles, thing, you're making jail.
Really?
And nobody you're making jail. Or you can, if this admiral go up there and they realize that he knew about things and he willfully do it, he going to make a jail, he ain't coming back down here.
But is there elections or an election going on also in America?
There's something that's coming up in 6 months. I think those are the small interstate elections and anything. All right. But the outside stations, when you look at the foreign TVs and so forth, CNN and so forth, follow the case that's going on with Venezuela, follow the cases of the people who are involved, the admirals and so forth. It's starting to get warm. It's starting to get thin. And you could make your connection to see the possibility that we may not have an invasion in this place. This is why our local televisions are not showing it, because I don't know, for whatever reason, because what is happening here is making front page and front news early on tonight, and normally they just follow a case for a long period of time. Look at it, CNN and all of them, and this case with the killing of the fellas and the survivors, and you hear they will invite all the former attorney generals, all the former experts and things, and they will be saying the same thing. This thing is illegal. And once Donald Trump, remember, Donald Trump didn't get no Congress approval for what is going on down here.
No, he hasn't.
Right. And so anytime they continue down that road, people in the army going to be court-martialed. They're going to, and those who are going to be court-martialed are going to end up at the international court, and they're going to be making serious jail. That is what's going to happen. So we have to look at these things, all these stories and things. I like the news and I was following the news.
Yeah.
But but I do follow local news in the way how some people as well, because I realize it's only when you look at the Parliament channel or the YouTube channel at the full story, you realize a lot of things are not being put on the front pages and so forth. They edit a lot of stuff. So this is how I get my news, from following on the outside. You see?
Right.
So check it out, and you follow the case what's going on with Venezuela, and follow the case with the Honduras man being pardoned. You'll see him in chains, being taken out and all of that kind of thing. And hear the conversations, the debates on CNN and so forth, and hear what they are saying in relation to this particular story.
Yeah.
And you're going to come up with that something is in the mix that may prevent Donald Trump from going forward. Because Donald Trump is a man, once he's going to get into trouble as a aiding and abetting, he just put other people under the bus. Everybody know that. So right now, they're looking to, they ain't started yet, but the news, so know them. They say that it seems like a shift is taking place to put the admiral who down here right now under the bus.
Wow.
Yeah. So they blame he. That is what is happening. But they ain't started yet, but they know the trend, they know the pattern.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, man.
So you follow it and think, I'm just bringing it to your attention. To watch the news and so forth. So
yes.
I know you're going to bring it back to us.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, man. Don't be a stranger, eh?
Yeah.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Google.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
How is your family? I trust in God that
everybody's
we have this loving Trinidad and Tobago, Venezuela. We love you, Mr. Google. Many moons ago, I told you that this gentleman is on par. This gentleman here who now spoke to the nation is on par. Mr. Trump can be arrested between now and the next 8 weeks. Mr. Trump cannot afford to play that game anymore that he's playing, or he was playing. He cannot afford to let none of these soldiers get killed. Nothing should happen to them. He was playing a strongman game, and people who know the law of Congress, the normal people, they would understand what's going on. They feel this is Trinidad and Tobago politics. This is international crime. They spoke about all who indulge in the crime, killing them violently. I heard it in the States. I heard the politicians and them speaking about all who were involved in killing them violently. This thing going far, you know. And also the ICC has already gotten involved. So when these cruise ships, these ships here are dismantled and goes back to where they came from, then the bacchanal start. And all who was involved in it, even our illustrious Prime Minister, will be held accountable in the ICC court. So have no fear, no invasion can take place. They're frightening the people because the people is not getting, mainstream media not informing the people. So have no fear. God is the boss, son. God is the boss. We have some hard times here in Trinidad and Tobago, you know, to pass, you know, because when Trump and them get out of here, our hard times now start, you know. Told you this, but have no fear. God is the boss. Love you, man. I'm gone.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, so the numbers again to call is 464-7003, 464-7003. Interesting. Somebody watching me, and you're watching my eyes down and feel asleep. I ain't sleeping tonight. Is NBC News are watching here, and CNN News. You need to look on the television or the whatever you're listening to me and call her. Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Pastor Google.
Hi,
let me just continue what the previous two callers say. They on point, eh? A lot of background going on in the White House. But also too, the allies of Venezuela also flexing their muscles. Russia, China, and Iran. And even
yes,
Korea.
I saw a video. I need to look down. I hear myself.
Okay. You good?
Yeah, I heard a clip of somebody from China or somewhere.
Yeah.
What that man said, I was like, what is this?
Let me tell you something. You see, I was asking myself, trying to realize that China is a major player in this thing too, and they have investment in Venezuela. Also, they seem to forget that we have an embassy here in China too. Remember your dad was talking about that they have CIA agents in the country and told us in Venezuela. They ever think about that? They probably have China they also have the intelligence as well, and they monitor what's going on in this country. Pastor Google, they ever think about that? No. Also too, well, I just also put on next thing to another twist too. You see when they talk about the ICC coming to intervene in that? That will have a domino effect, you know. Right? Now I know your dad says that there's a possibility that the Prime Minister might not be, I am no liable, but if it is, there's mounting evidence to support that she will be involved. There's a possibility that she might be called up in ICC as well. Right? There's a strong possibility. I don't know what maybe you have to bring an ex-lawyer to have their opinions, but there's a possibility that her name might be brought up in the ICC, which is much more embarrassment to us as well. Okay?
I hear you, sir.
So the possibility is endless. Also, too, when they finish with their campaign and they take back their radar home, do you know that we had to face the wrath of the Venezuelans after that? Do you know what damage these people have done with our relationship in Venezuela? I know the excuse now they could make now. The Venezuela could make an excuse so now that Trinidad belongs to Venezuela. You see where I'm coming from? Pastor Google?
I hear you.
Because they already claim that part of Guyana, which is called the Essequibo region, it is theirs.
I hear you.
All of that. So we in some serious problem. So,
it's interesting. Thank you very much, caller. So here what now, Olio? I gonna play this tonight, though. Yeah, I gonna play this tonight. Now I have to give you a little taste of what it is happening in America. Yeah, what is Java? So, so here what now? Okay, I know what I'll do. So while I'm pulling that up, I will give you all this information here. Alright, so while I'm pulling up what's going on in America for you all to hear and see, take a listen to this. What's the time? Yeah, man, I have enough time. Take a listen to this. Please, everybody, take a listen to this. All right? I want you all to take a listen to this. Please, take a listen to this. It's very interesting. It's an interesting conversation that this lady is having. Very, very interesting conversation that this lady is having, and I want you all to listen to it. Please. All right? No, I can't do that. All right, so just now, I want to start it over. All right, let me start it over. But yeah, you all need to listen to this story here. When I listened to it, I was like, wow. Some of us, we need to listen. We need to listen to what's going on. All right? So you all take a listen to this. All right. Yep.
Introverts would ever come on social media and make videos and post them. Here we are. It feels like something very sinister is happening now. Something that is much different from the usual contentiousness that we've always had in Trinidad and Tobago politics. I think when I realized that we were in trouble was earlier this year when I went to visit some of my former neighbors in Trinidad after being away for about 2.5 years. So I went to visit them in the rural community where I used to live. I have nothing but wonderful memories of that place. We never had to worry about anything when we were there. We all looked out for each other. I would get food brought to my door, fish that people caught, vegetables and fruit from people's trees, and I tried to do my part as well. Imagine my surprise when one of the first things that these good, gentle, helpful, loving people, in my experience, started talking about Trump and make America great again and make Trinidad great again, and how it's only those other people who are criminals and Trump will save us from the criminals. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked them if they were okay with this kind of hateful politics. They said yes, they loved it. I really couldn't understand what was going on. So I asked them questions to find out where all of this was coming from, because it seemed like they had completely changed in a short period of time. It turns out that they had been listening to Indian talk radio stations in Trinidad and Tobago, and they were being fed this rhetoric that was very familiar to me and anybody who has been watching what's going on in the United States of America. It was like some kind of tropical version of MAGA, and people who I thought were good people were buying into it. I realized that it was probably not a coincidence that people were getting these kinds of messages, that people were being riled up with this kind of rhetoric. It had worked in the United States, and it seemed to be working in my community as well. Look, I have been shouting about the problems that are found in my people, in my community, for many years to anybody who would listen to me, right? I mean, everything from racism to misogyny to authoritarian parenting and child abuse to just the lack of critical thinking. I see many parallels between my community and the base of the MAGA movement in the United States. And I believe that is one of the main reasons why this kind of philosophy was able to spread like a virus here. If you really want to get at the root cause of the problem, when there's an absence of a coherent story about who you are, your identity, it creates a vacuum that can be filled by all kinds of different stories. Sometimes those that come from external forces who do not have your best interests in mind. And look, I know that some people will say, well, what about the problems in other groups and other communities and other ethnicities? I don't belong to those. I need to fix my own house before I look to anybody else's house. And we have a lot of problems internally that we need to address. We have left it so long that we have made ourselves vulnerable to this harmful ideology that could destabilize our entire country and even the region. So if you look at the history of MAGA in the United States, there are many parallels to what's been playing out in Trinidad and Tobago. They also started on talk radio, by the way, several years ago, targeting rural people who had issues that the wider community was not listening to. Now evolved to what some observers call a death cult. They just want to watch the world burn. They just want to create chaos. And a cult is a way of thinking that causes you to ignore your own best interests, that causes you to abandon logic and reality, Somebody might say it's raining. You might say, oh, well, it rains in many places. It's not just here that's raining. Or in its extreme form, which I see all the time now, it's not raining. Some people tell me that I shouldn't comment on what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago because I am not there right now, even though everyone and everything that I love is there. But I think that's the reason why I feel compelled to say something, because I know a lot of people agree with what I'm saying, but they have a lot to lose by speaking up, and I have less to lose. So it's my responsibility to speak up. And also, I'm tired of feeling ashamed of the people who are supposed to represent me. And I say all of this knowing full well that when you challenge people who are in a cult, they will attack you. Because in the absence of a coherent story about themselves, their identity now becomes intertwined with being in that cult. And a challenge to their way of thinking is almost like a challenge to their life. They will attack because they will feel like you are attacking them. I just want better for us, all of us.
Wow. Wow. That's all I would say. Wow. That's all I would say. Wow. Wow. Wake up in the Trinidad and Tobago. Wake up. Time for us to wake up. You know? Wake up, Trinidad and Tobago. Wake up. Wake up. Please. Time for us to wake up. And stop sleeping. A lot of us are sleeping. So the gentleman waked me up and told me to go and do my research and come with the information for the people. To only look at our local news, but there's things that are happening internationally. Pastor Google, that you need to bring awareness to the people. So, sir, I did do it. I did went and listen, and I got the information, and I'm going to share it with my listeners, and they know. But it's not 4 strikes, it's 2, based on what the news is saying here. Well, let's go. Take a listen to this Trinidad and Tobago.
Tonight, President Trump defending striking a boat allegedly carrying drugs to the U.S. twice in early September.
I want those boats taken out, and if we have to